Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today's a really special episode and it's a special day. It's my 4-year podcast anniversary. And I'm so excited for this. I just want to thank you all for being here on this journey with me and supporting me all throughout this podcast journey I've been on. And this episode is really special not only because it's the anniversary, but also because I have my mom as like a co-host today, and she will be doing something different with us today. So what instead of me interviewing her, she'll be interviewing me, and we can kind of go in and see and hear about my podcast perspectives and hear my interesting answers for some of the fun questions we have from our listeners. So, anyways, hi mom, how are you today?
Yeah, hi Anika. How are you doing?
I'm good. So yeah, you can get started whenever you're ready.
So it's so nice to hear that you have completed your 4 years. How you are feeling? What's some feelings are there when you finish some one achievement? So what are you feeling now?
I'm feeling pretty great, actually. It's awesome. Like I never realized that, this podcast would go for this long. I know when I started, I just started like, like let's try something new. I never really thought that okay, this will become something bigger to the point where I'll be continuing for over 4 years. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
So how did you get inspired to start a podcast?
For me, basically what happened was I listened to podcasts before starting one, so I was just listening. And of course, like in the past I've always said it's a mistake. But I'm starting to realize, this was not a mistake. It was done on purpose. Yes, I reached to this point by accident, like, reaching the page of this, but I chose to start one and I chose to go on with this. So I guess that's the inspiration. I chose to create
Mm-hmm.
that opportunity rather than think of it as a mistake that I'm doing this by mistake. I thought of this as an opportunity to grow and try something new. So that's how the
Mm-hmm.
podcast came to be.
Wow, nice. So what was the rebranding process like? What were
Yeah,
you thinking of that?
yeah. So before, as you all know, the podcast was called Season 1 Book Club with Anika Goyal. And of course, over the years or over the episodes we've done, it was no longer like a book club. It was in the start like books, authors, all those things. But then I was like bringing on singer songwriters,
Mm-hmm.
producers, and all those things. So I was like, this doesn't really encompass what the podcast is. It's not a book club. It's an industry. It's a hustle. So then that's how I came up with the name The Creative Hustle with Anika Goyal. And also, I was on this podcast called the Story King podcast, and I was a guest there. And then those hosts
Mm-hmm.
basically called me a little hustler. I think this interview was in 2020. So during that time, I was like, okay, I'm just going to note this down. This seems like a interesting name for future references.
Mm-hmm.
And then I end up using that name for the podcast.
Okay, great. Nice to hear that thing as well. Nice.
Thank
So
you.
I have also listened your quite a few podcasts. It's yes, it's mix of everything and it's nice.
Thank you.
So my next question to you is, if your podcast was a person, what would their zodiac sign be and why?
That's a very interesting question, actually. Let me see. Well, I mean, my podcast is like very unhinged at times. It's very powerful, very dynamic, but it's also very like normal and chill. So I would say maybe an Aries or a Sagittarius, maybe.
Correct. So, as I know, you are a student and you are doing this year is very tough for you. So, how will you manage your podcast and your studies in such a busy life? How will you take out the time for these things?
I feel like the main thing to remember is, right, when you have the motivation, no matter whether you have 1 hour left, 0 hours left, you'll somehow find the time to make for your podcast or whatever you're trying to do. Because, yes, junior year is very, very hard. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you have to focus on that, but you also know that if you have that motivation or you have, like, podcast is very important for me. This is like my like life apart from like study, then you will somehow make the time to do it, even if it's like a tiny episode. Like I made like a 6 minute episode.
Mm-hmm.
Or not today, but by today I mean for all of you listening, it's not gonna be today, it's gonna be another day. But like what I mean is like no
Mm-hmm.
matter what you have, what work you have, it's not that hard to take out like a few minutes to do what you love. because
Mhm.
it's important to know that yes, work is important, but you also want to have the relaxation or that thing that makes you happy as well, so that you don't feel burnt out.
Mhm. Right, right. So, okay. So my next question is something about uh like dead or alive. Like if you could interview someone dead or alive, who would you choose and why?
Okay, so I'm gonna answer this two ways. So for someone dead, I would try to interview Jane Austen. Her
Mm-hmm.
books, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility. I really enjoyed those books, and I think it would be really interesting to talk to her about her writing process and what kind of stemmed the idea behind those books. Because those are just like very classic books, and like you read them everywhere. You read them in AP literature, you read them in English 11, you read them everywhere. So I would like to know, like, what really kind of created that atmosphere for her to want to write those kind of books.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of like alive people, I've always said in all these episodes, even the Alexa Curtis episode, for those of you who've listened, you all know that I love Olivia Rodrigo, so she would be an absolute dream.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then in terms of more like, older alive people, I'll probably say like maybe I'm trying to think actually because this is a broad question. Probably like I don't know, maybe Billie Eilish, or Lainey Wilson, Leve, or someone like that.
So, do you think these people will inspire more of the young generations?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, every person, even whether you think about it or not, they all have like this power. For me, I never knew that this would become this big of a platform, but I would say, like, this is just me saying it, but I think I am able to empower people. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, maybe subconsciously or consciously, but like, I think if you're a person, whatever you say gets into the universe. So, like, whatever you're saying eventually does inspire or empower some, whether you know it or not.
Mm-hmm. Correct, correct. So, I have a question with you only. Whom would you like more to come on your shows, like on your
Oh,
interview?
yeah. That's actually a great question. Yeah. Honestly, all of these guests I've had on are amazing. And Alexa Curtis, the Alexa Curtis episode, and Alexa Curtis as a person, she's amazing. I think she was my biggest inspiration because her podcast I've been listening to way before I even started podcasting.
Okay, good. And what change do you feel in yourself after after having the motivation of this person?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like before I got introduced to her stuff, I think I was like a normal, very shy person. I would have never imagined myself doing podcast or interviewing people or doing
Mm-hmm.
anything I'm doing right now. But I think she kind of gave me the confidence, like, okay, if she's doing it and I like this podcast and I will try to do this, I can definitely come out as a new person. So then after I did podcast interviews, all those things made me come out of my shell, became more confident, and I was able to try new things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So, if your podcast was a person, who would play the lead and supporting role?
That's another great question. Wow, you guys are giving really good questions. I love these. Okay. Well, I mean, for the lead, I would say this is hard because there's so many great actors and actresses out there. For the lead, I would say, let me think. Millie Bobby Brown probably because Millie Bobby Brown is very like, empowering. She never fails to like impress people. She is
Mm-hmm.
very strong, determined. She knows what she wants and she goes for it. And she's also very powerful and empowering and makes sure that every voice is heard. So I would say
Mm-hmm.
my podcast main character, because like it's the main embodiment, would be Millie Bobby Brown. In terms of supporting characters, I would say Oprah Winfrey, because
Okay.
she has her own talk show, and I would say maybe, if not fully, then maybe like a few parts of it kind of embody her too, because she's very bold, passionate about whatever she talks about. She knows like, okay, this is what I want to talk about, this is what I don't want to talk about. So she has like a set goal. So I would say Millie Bobby Brown, main character, Oprah Winfrey, supporting character.
Okay. 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 Great. So, I want to ask you where you see your podcast to be.
My vision. Yeah, so I mean, right now, we have had this podcast going on for 4 plus years. This is the fourth year. And so I mean, the vision just like is to kind of continue growing this empire, if you will, and like
Mm-hmm.
keep like bringing on guests and talk about new things and just exploring everything there is. I mean, I'm still pretty young in this area. It's only been 4 years, but I feel like I just want to keep empowering people, keep inspiring others to like join me on this creative journey and fulfill their creative dreams and paths, no matter what people tell them.
It's a good attempt actually to do this, because I feel that student all the youngsters all have different taste, and have if they are getting all these in one place in your podcast only, I think it will be great. They will listen because they are also getting their interest in your podcast.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So my next question to you is, what does podcasting mean to you?
Honestly, it means everything. Like it's like this outlet for me to express myself. It's an outlet to talk about things that you won't talk about otherwise, like self doubt, negativity, self care, self love, all those things. And even like, career topics, like creative topics, like how do you use creative trends to express your creativity, or how do you use social media to convey what you want to say in the most positive manner, like that, those kind of things. So it kind of gives you like this platform to share your thoughts and your experiences with others.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to understand how you feel when someone says no to come to your podcast, and if they are giving time and they're canceling the podcast, then I want to understand your feeling about this.
This is actually quite a relevant question because this is like for the past 2 months. Actually, this is like for all the listeners to kind of explain why I've been kind of disappeared from the podcast space for a little bit. It's because specifically for interviews. It's because you schedule an interview and then everything is great, right? And then maybe they either don't tell you or they do tell you, and then your podcast interview gets cancelled. So then this past 2 months or past 3 months, in fact, no interviews happen because either it schedule gets cancelled or they just say no altogether. So yeah, I mean, it's very hard sometimes. You kind of like not feeling like giving up, but like you do feel discouraged, like, okay, do
Mm-hmm.
I just not interview people anymore? Like, what do I
Mm-hmm.
do with this? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely that feeling, but I would say not giving up has definitely fueled me because when you give up, it's just game over. It When you give up, it's like, okay, you're putting in your towel and saying, no, I'm done, and then your
Mm-hmm.
progress will stop. If you want your
Correct.
progress, you have to like move forward. You have to be like, okay, this is not happening. Let's move on to the next thing and see what happens. Because every door that you have, open or closed, if it's closed, there's another open door behind it. No
Yeah.
matter where you go, everywhere is an open door. It's an open space. You can explore whatever you want.
Actually, sometimes we can't see which door is. If we see that only the closed door, and you never explore the open door, is sometimes a hidden door is there. You can't explore that also. Good answer that you should never give up. I think something or the other is written for them. Is something is there. We should not feel low and just sit and just leave the things.
For sure,
Great,
yeah.
great. So, any new segment ideas you want to have for the podcast?
Well, I mean, yeah, some segment ideas I do have, which is super exciting to think about, is I'm thinking of like adding an advice column. So you guys send in your questions,
Mm-hmm.
and every episode I answer one or two questions. I'll also be putting up a Google form soon with like a questionnaire where you can put up all your questions. So that's a new segment that I'm trying to set up, and I'll keep you all updated on the progress for that.
So you are thinking of this year only, or you should probably do it for the next year? What are your plans for
Definitely
this?
like maybe like, down the road, not now because, it's gonna be hard to manage everything still. So
Mm-hmm.
perhaps maybe like, perhaps like, I don't know, after maybe January, February or something like that. But again, all of you listening to this episode, there's no tentative date for this, but
Mm-hmm.
just know that this is coming. I'm not sure when it's coming, but I will keep you updated on the date when it's starting, Google Forms where you can find it, how to submit your questions, all of that stuff. I'll go in detail as time comes for this.
Okay, okay. Great, great. And who have been your biggest podcasting influences?
My biggest podcasting influences would be Skylar Sorkin
Mm-hmm.
and Alexa Curtis.
Okay. So Alexa Curtis is the main thing.
Yeah,
Main person, sorry.
yeah,
Great, great. You, it's like you do your own podcast, and do you listen to other podcasts as well?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, again, Lexa Curtis's Dare to Be Fearless podcast. Love that episode. Love that.
So that's your the favorite one?
Yeah, I mean, one of the favorites. I mean, the one which I listen to the most is Life Unfiltered. Um, and then there's Life Unfiltered, and there's a podcast by Sammy J, which I listen to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's
So the favorite podcast which you mentioned just now, can you tell a little bit of about her podcast so that it will so that people will know about her as well more?
Yeah, of course. So Life Unfiltered is basically this. I don't exactly recall the. It's a Dear Media production. So oh, by the way, before I continue, this is not in any way sponsored by Dear Media, so make sure you tread wisely ahead. Anyways, so this podcast, Life Unfiltered by the Dear Media production, it kind of talks about like life unfiltered, basically. It's like whatever the title says. So it's like, okay, we're gonna talk about friendship today, and it's fully unfiltered. No, no like cap or no like coverage. It's all like
Mhm.
friendship, toxic friendship, good friendship,
Mhm.
bad friendship, brutal friendship, all of it. So
Okay.
basically, it's very unhinged. It's very like open and very self-aware kind of thing, where you just learn about how they feel as a host about these certain topics. So definitely,
Mhm.
like if I were given the chance to like kind of partner up with them or collab with them, it'd be a great collab because I think both of us have kind of the same values in the sense of opening up and talking about things openly without hiding things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool, Anika. Nice talking to you. Nice listening to your answers. It's glad to listen, and hope this episode brings youngsters understands more about many things you have spoken about. It never give up. Just see the open door and so many things you have told. So great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time and giving me all the answers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. Everyone listening to this episode, thank you so much again for supporting me on this 4 year journey. I will continue putting out episodes and interviews and all those things you enjoy. Once again, thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you next time.